Alright, so let's do some bellflowers today. They're a bead. They're fun to do. They're fairly quick. They do use some basic blowing skills and a blow hose, so you'd need that if you wanted to do it. But if you just want to see how it's done, here's how it goes. To make one of these, I like to start off with about a 1/2 inch tube of the color that I'm working with, and I do go ahead and weld a handle to it, even though it's so small a diameter I don't need to. But when I'm making these, I'm going to make up the entire tube from one end to the other, and this allows me to use it all the way to the end of the colored tube. And then of course I've got my little handles which I recycle. So to do this, I heat up a gather on the end, give it a little bit of good wall thickness up there, let it build up a bit, and then while rotating it, I'm going to put it into this little wire basket tool that's also rotating at the same speed, and blow it out in there, creating this shape here. At that time, I'm going to blow out the hole on the end so that the air will go through it, but then I'm going to seal it off with this punty. But this punty actually has a big flat disc on it, so it will fit around that entire end like this here, where it's got quite a bit of overlap. And the reason for that is I just get the lips hot and touch it to it, and it's a temporary weld, and I want to be able to tap it off easily when I go to snap it off, and I'll be holding it with the tweezers at that point. So blow the hole and weld this up to that, and then put a lot of heat right here as it's rotating around, and blow it out a little bit, creating a hole. So we just flame cut that right away from this, giving us this here, which again we grab it with the tweezers, give it a little pop on something, and then we'll have this here, the little bellflower. And all that we need to do at that point is fire polish the lips here, and then put it into the kiln and anneal it, and we'll have one of these. So here we go. Got a little bit of amber tubing here. Again, like I said, it's welded up to, where's my camera at there? Here we go. Welded up to the 9.5 handle, and that's roughly 1/2 inch tubing. I think this is maybe a little bit under that, but somewhere along there. And 1/2 inch is ideal. You can go a little bit bigger if you want to make these flowers a little bit larger. So I think I'll start with putting on a layer of silver fume. So there's a chunk of silver. It's from a couple of old coins. 2 ounce to start with, makes it easier, lasts longer before you have to weld a new one to it. If it gets too small, they'll melt down too quick and of course turn to liquid. And do this with very good ventilation if you're going to do it. Just a real small, tight, hot flame. And there it goes. Okay, that's a pretty heavy fume. That ought to give us a nice contrast between the exterior and the interior of the flower, and it adds some interesting shades to the surface. So I get my blow hose. Just a little side note here, if you keep your blow hose plugged into itself, then bugs cannot crawl into the end of it when you're not working and out into your mouth when you are. A little tiny bit of water to make it slide in there easily. Whip the loop around my neck so I don't drop it. Alright, let's get the tube out and make one of these things. We're just going to put a lot of heat right there on the tip. build up the wall thickness a little bit so that when we blow it out it does not become too thin. It'll actually take quite a bit of heat there to get it ready and build up that thickness. And the blow hose really is very helpful with this. This would be much more awkward without one. So I'm putting it in and I'm blowing it out, but I'm not really pushing it because I don't want to go mushroom on it where the tube pushes up inside the flower. I want to keep that wall where I can get to it with the flame. So after the initial shaping into the little metal cage, I'll go ahead and heat up the whole thing. And I'm going to start with the end closest to my right hand there. I'm going to reinforce that back wall and then shape the cone and blow that out a little bit. And then I'll heat up the tip really well and blow that out to a point and then blow a hole at the end of the point. That'll be where this is strung from. There we go. And then we'll heat up that tip and blow a small hole. And that's all it takes. Blow hose makes it super easy. So now I'm going to put a punty on it, and there's a variation on the punty design here. I'm going to heat up the tip and then flatten it into a disc that is larger than the size of the hole I want to block. This will help me later with tapping that punty off, because no matter what, there will be a little projecting lip that's easy to hit with the tool. So nice precise alignment. Doesn't have to be a good weld. In fact, you don't want a good weld. This is going to come off in just a minute. So it's a temporary handle. So we'll go back to that shoulder and apply a really tight ring of heat there, and then while slowly drawing it apart, I'll puff a little bit of air into it, and that'll blow a hole which will immediately run around the circumference and separate that. Just a really quick flame cut. Now I'm going to concentrate on the remaining tubing and condensing down the end and putting that back into tube form with even wall thickness, because that's going to be more flowers, and that's the shape you'll need when you pull it out of the kiln again to do the next one, just like we're doing this one. So while that glass is already hot is the perfect time to go ahead, heat it up, condense it down, and blow it out so that the wall thickness is even, and then put it back in the kiln. And then I'll get back to shaping the flower. So I'll put a good amount of heat to the outside, and I'm going to use my little conical graphite reamer and put enough heat to it so that the whole thing will move a little bit, but not burn out your shape or your design or burn off any fuming. And then we'll rotate that with the reamer in it, and right there's a nice little flower shape. We could stop right there and say, okay, that's good, let's top off the punty and polish the hole and call it finished. But on these I like to put little indentations around the lip. It kind of separates them into petals, and like a lot of flowers there's 5. So I'm going to put 5 little indentions around the lip. Just heat up a small spot and then push down. Repeat that 4 more times, equidistant around the flower. And this, I think it helps it to look much more organic and natural. There we go, the 5th one. Take a look at it. Yep, that works. So I'm going to grab that with tweezers, and in an ideal world you give it one quick tap on the edge of a torch or something, and that punty will pop right off. Sometimes it'll leave behind a little remnant, and since we left that lip extending out, it'll be easy to tap off any remnants or any pieces that don't come off when you tap it the first time. Grab the tweezers, and you see there, I really welded it on better than I expected that time. And you see there's a little bit of glass left on there from the punty, and I can just tap that right off into the water and fire polish the hole. And boom, we're done. We've got one cute little flower ready to be strung up or added to another piece. There we go. And yeah, I do like that. The silver on the outside, the amber on the inside, you get glossy, and yet you get kind of a natural tone. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to showing you more. Thank you.